Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Woo! Got a little stuffy throat there. So I know that my videos have had a little bit of a delay. Like I posted like a day late than my normal posting schedule all last week, and then I totally missed Monday this week. My bad. I've had a lot of stuff going on at work, so I'm just trying to balance everything with my filming time. I was only able to get through 4 books this month, or for July, which is a bummer, but I will have my July wrap-up video in like 2 videos. I wanted to get in-depth book reviews up beforehand, because I did just read Philip Fracasse's Boys in the Valley. I'm going to be doing a whole video on that with my friend Blackacre Doe. We did a buddy read. I did finish Christopher Triana's sequel to Gone to See the Riverman, Along the River of Flesh. That will be my next video to go up. And then today I really wanted to talk about Briardark by S.A. Harian. If you guys are subscribed to Twisted Retreat or you watched my Twisted Retreat unboxing videos, you know that I recently received this in, I believe it was a box I got in May. And I finally got around to it, and I have many, many, many thoughts on this novel. This was not at all what I was expecting it to be, but I definitely think it deserves a full video to dissect. So first off, I want to give a shout out to Twisted Retreat because I really love the cover of this book and the interior. They didn't do too much on the redesign of the cover, but then you do get this absolutely stunning, like foiled cover here. It has the name on the side, and then of course like the mountains and wilderness in the back. And of course the stenciled edges. And if you read the book, all of this just makes so much sense to me. And then the inside flap does have this really creepy skull in there as well. I think my favorite part of this novel was realizing that the cover, this cover is actually a direct image from a scene in the book, which I thought was really, really cool. And when that scene happened, I was like, oh my god, this is the cover of the book. That's really creepy. I love how they did that. But yes, so Briardark. I have never heard of S.A. Harian before. I had never heard of the Briardark before. And I'm going to read the inside flap because I feel like this will just do a really good job of summarizing everything for y'all. So it says, for Dr. Sienna DuPont and her ambitious team, the Alpenglow Glacier expedition is a career-defining opportunity. But 30 miles into the desolate Dead Switch wilderness, they discover a missing hiker dangling from a tree, and their satellite phone fails to call out. Then the body vanishes without a trace. The disappearance isn't the only chilling anomaly. Sienna's map no longer aligns with the trail. The glacier they were supposed to study has inexplicably melted. Strange foliage overruns the mountainside, and a tunnel within a tree hollow lures Sienna to a hidden cabin and a stranger with a sinister message. Holden Sharp's IT job offers little distraction from his wasted potential until he stumbles upon a decommissioned hard drive and an old audio file. Trapped on a mountain, Dr. Sienna DuPont recounts an expedition in chaos and the bloody death of a colleague. Entranced by the mystery, Holden searches for answers to Sienna's fate, but he is unprepared for the truth that will draw him to the outskirts of Dead Switch Wilderness, a place teeming with unfathomable nightmares and impossibilities. So this novel is told pretty much through the perspectives of Holden, who was our IT guy back at home, trying to figure out what's going on. He has some sort of connection to these to the havoc that's happening on the glacier in the national park with Dr. Sienna DuPont. And then you get a lot of perspectives from Sienna DuPont as well as her team out in the wilderness climbing these mountains, studying this glacier. I found this book fascinating. It reminded me quite a lot of the first half of Adam Neville's The Ritual. And then it also reminded me a lot of The Descent, the film, by Neil Marshall. And I really, really, really enjoyed this book. I was so interested in the journey with Dr. DuPont. There's a lot of mystery with the background and being on this mountain, and I don't want to give anything away because I feel like I'm already trying to talk about things that are going to be like revealed in the book. But it was a great kind of wilderness survival story. And then you pair it with Holden, who was kind of finding almost Blair Witch style, like the audio files that were recovered from this expedition, and trying to like piece everything together and find out what happened. And I was so on board with this book, literally all the way up until the last like 40 pages, where I had to sit and literally be like, There's 40 pages left and not a single one of my questions have been answered. And that's when I realized it was a series. And that is where this book kind of lost me, because it takes a lot for me to invest in a series. And there's a lot going on. There were a lot of characters. There's a lot of world building and a lot of mystery and a lot of unanswered questions. And the fact that this is a series isn't necessarily a bad thing. I just really wish I had known going into it, because now I'm going to feel compelled to keep reading the series when I was looking for a book that was going to be all in one, just fully contained in one story, and it's not. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, just as my personal reading preferences. I would have liked to have at least a few of these questions answered. There are so many questions that I have, including like Sienna's relationship with her mentor, her relationship with her ex-fiance and what happened there, and they dangle the carrot in front of you, telling you like little hints and pieces of what happened, but you don't get any of those answers. I don't really have the answers as to how Cameron is related to Lauren, because that is so heavily hinted at, and yet Lauren seems to not understand that Cameron exists. And that's not a spoiler, this is just me trying to deduce what I think happens, because it's never stated that Cameron and Lauren know each other, but I think it's interesting that Cameron's ex-girlfriend is named Lauren and fits all of the descriptions of Holden's roommate, Lauren, and yet Lauren is helping Holden and doesn't make the connection that maybe she knows this Cameron. So maybe they don't know each other, maybe there's this parallel universe going on, but that was just like such a glaring like moment of confusion for me, where I was like, are these supposed to be the same character, or are they just conveniently named the same thing? And then we have all this weird, wacky stuff going on with Holden, which I was so confused by. It just leads me to think more and more that this is going to be a very like interdimensional story, because of his relationship with his ex-girlfriend and his weird hallucinations that he's having throughout this novel and how it relates to our expedition. There was just a lot, and it was a lot of questions to have absolutely no answers presented to us. And I understand that with a series that'll happen, but I feel like even with series that have like glaring unanswered questions, like Darcy Coates' The Gravekeeper series, that first book, you read it and you're like, absolutely no questions about like the overarching theme of that story were answered, and you have to read through the story to like get those, but at least you get smaller questions answered throughout, and you kind of don't feel like incomplete finishing books. I felt really incomplete finishing this, and it's a shame, because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was scary, I thought it was claustrophobic, I thought it was disorienting in the way that the book wants it to be. I loved the little subtle moments of confusion that the expedition has, and how they kind of brush it off as not an anomaly when it absolutely is an anomaly. I love the egos that are driving all of our people on the expedition, and their selfishness allowing them to overlook certain red flags. I thought it was really well done, and I love the parallel story between the expedition and Holden and his like journey through IT discovery. I thought it was really well done. It really balanced out the pace, it balanced out the mystery, it balanced out the intrigue, and I will definitely read the next book. I just wasn't going into this expecting this to be a series and not having all of my answers by the end of it. But this was a 4-star read for me, because it really did impress me. I had to definitely look up a bunch of things that I didn't understand from like hiking and like serious like deep wilderness survival. There was a lot of terms I didn't understand, a lot of gear I didn't understand, but it wasn't overly confusing at all. I thought it was very well done. And even if Holden and that whole mystery wasn't like a parallel storyline, I would have thoroughly enjoyed just reading about Dr. Sienna DuPont and her expedition, because I think it's really well done, it's really fascinating, and there's this level of realism with it, where the wilderness and like parts unknown can be very terrifying just in reality, and the way that Harian introduces all of these kind of supernatural elements to elevate the kind of horrors of being trapped in the wilderness, I think just worked so well. And it's this idea of like the disorientation and taking things that would happen to people like out trying to survive in like a similar situation, taking actual fears and actual plausible circumstances and elevating them with these supernatural moments instead of just like introducing something like a random monster to come and attack everybody, the way that they do in like The Hunger. Who was that by? I think Almakatsu. Where like the addition of the supernatural doesn't really enhance the actual like horrors of being trapped in the wilderness. This one really enhances it and elevates it, and it felt as plausible as you can when adding like a fully weird new supernatural, almost cosmic style to this. I don't know if I would call it cosmic horror yet. I think I'm going to have to continue to read this series to figure it out. But the cosmicness of it felt very well laid out. It felt very much introduced to the reader at a good pace. I really hate in cosmic horror where they introduce that it's a cosmic being at the very, very end, and it's like existential dread, there's nothing you can do about it, but you didn't see this coming. I hate that about cosmic horror, and I think this one does a really, really good job of kind of explaining this world that our hikers are introduced to and how it functions, even though we don't have all the answers as the reader and they don't have all the answers as the people trapped in it. And I think the idea that there are people who have gotten in and gotten out before is also really, really well done. There are a couple scenes when like Emmett and Sienna are like kind of trapped in the cabin where it doesn't make sense to me. Like the world building of that moment wasn't explained, and I think the physics of it wasn't perfectly explained, and then they're somehow able to get out, and that also wasn't explained to me. It just kind of all of a sudden happened. So there are definitely little nitpicky things that I could pull out of this novel and be like, that one didn't quite work for me, but I'll give you the suspension of disbelief for the time being. But other than that, it was a very, very, very solid world building, very solid description of the layout and what was where and how they were able to navigate from point A to point B. And I really, really liked that attention to detail, and I thought Harian did a really, really good job with it. And yes, as much as I'm disappointed that I'm now going to be thrust into another series, because I don't always love being committed to series, I will absolutely read it. Though I do hope it comes out sooner rather than later, because there was a lot of information to retain in here. And I just don't know if waiting for the next book to come out will really help me to continue to hold interest in this novel, because I don't know if I'll necessarily be able to retain all of the questions that I currently have after having read it, because there was just so much in it. So 4 stars, definitely pick this up if you want like a really good survivalist tale, but just know that you won't really get any of the answers that you're looking for. It really is an intro into what I'm hoping is only like a trilogy or something, because I could definitely see them doing quite a lot with this story and this landscape and this world and these characters. And they're all very interesting, very flawed, very dynamic characters, which I really, really love. I love a flawed main character. I think that just gives the author so much more to play with and so much more to do and so many ways to say and nail certain points, and I think this book did a great job of that. So yes, 4 stars, definitely very impressed with it, having never heard of this book before. But just know that you will not get all of the answers. But yeah, definitely give it a shot. I loved the world building in this. I loved the scenery in this. I loved the atmosphere. It was really, really cool. Anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Friday, or sometimes on Saturdays. Usually, my schedule has been all over the place this last week and a half. And if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you all in the next one. Mwah.